Hello, my name is Alan Jordan, and in this brief video, I'm going to explain how you can identify schools and libraries that are facing a fiscal problem and give them an opportunity to help conquer a part of that problem. My name is Alan Jordan, and I'll be your guide on this. You'll notice that we have a number of links on the top of the page. These are live links that go to dynamic presentations by Google and Bing and go to different websites. Let's pick Bing. The first thing we see when we go to Bing is Corbett drops budget axe cuts in education. The second thing that we see is there's more Merrimack school budgets could lead to school teacher layoffs. Let's click on that one. And if we do, we find that it's published by the Nashua Telegraph and written by a staff writer named Jake Berry. That's very interesting because that means we can touch base with Jake Berry and ask him for his help in covering something. As we go down through the article, we see a late round of budget cuts requested could cost more jobs across the district. And school board members who have already proposed 6 teacher cut positions, among others, asked administrators to avoid further teacher cuts, according to Jennifer Thornton, the board's vice chairman. That's a contact name, we should note. And the administrators plan to introduce their recommendations tonight to the school board. We'll have a look through the budget and see what room there is. As it stands, the district spending plan, which is approved by the school board and district, proposes to cut 8 total positions. You'll notice that they're talking about cutting, but they're not talking about doing anything to bring in money. All they're doing is talking about cutting. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a way where they could actually bring in some money and not have to cut as much? That's an angle that you could suggest to Jay Berry at NashuaTelegraph.com. If Jay Berry ran the story based on our webpage, or if Jay Berry called and asked for questions and then ran the story, wouldn't that be likely to produce interest or sales? I would think so. Let's go back to our page again. Here we have 3 different videos. They don't do you any good whatsoever in trying to find people. They're just credibility. So we'll come back to Bing. Let's pick Roanoke County's city school boards reveal budget proposals. And if we look at this article, what we'll find immediately is that this person, Courtney Cutright, has an email that you can send something to and a phone number. And we'll find that the Roanoke County draft shows an increase, but Roanoke's remains similar to this fiscal year. So what does that mean? It means that the school unveiled drafts of budgets, and it could have been worse. They're not doing real well, but they're only going back to the type of budget that they had about 4 years ago. In today's world, that's not as bad as it could be. Suppose we had talked to Courtney Cutright. Suppose we told her or emailed her and asked her to look at our information and do an article about a way that a school district could raise a couple $100,000, $10,000 to $20,000 at a time in each elementary school. Might that be of interest to her? I think so. Now let's look at Google News. We'll click on that link, bring it over. What do we see? Corporate boards should add diversity to the mix. Doesn't do us much good. Recession pairs faith in government banks. Doesn't do us much good. to hold an emergency school meeting facing the worst financial crisis they've had. Now that sounds interesting. Let's take a look at that article. And it's published Tuesday, March 8th. As we look through the Herald News, what do we notice? Well, one of the things we notice is that there are lots of budget cuts being proposed. Lots and lots of things, everything down to closing of the schools and elimination of the internet content specialist position. One of the things we notice is that the session will be streamed live on the district website, and it gives the district website. If we click on that, it tells us a little bit about what's going on in a letter signed by Callie L. Olson Binks, Superintendent. That's interesting because we wrote to Callie L. Olson Binks by email, and we told him that we could help him to reduce the cuts to K-12 education by raising money. He might be interested. Might he not? Let's try an experiment. Let's type in school fundraising. What do we have? This top one is too high profile, but here's one that's promising. Wilsey Wood High School fundraising event planned. And here's one that's promising. Centralia Schools race to meet fundraising deadline. $19,000 short. I happen to have that article over here, so I'll bring it up to show it to you. I already clicked on it. And what it basically says is they're going to do a scrapbook fundraiser later this month. And it's going to be held from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the cost is $30, includes 12 hours of uninterrupted cropping, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What would happen if we suggested to them that they tied a monster on top of the bed in with this fundraiser, make a dual fundraiser? If we go to this website, wildcatbee.com, it tells us the schedule of events, it tells you about the volunteers, it probably has on here somewhere a bit of contact information. And if we contact these people, here we go, here's a phone number, and here's an address. There's probably somewhere in here an email address too. But if we contact these people and we talk to them about putting in an extra part of their fundraiser, it might raise them a lot of extra money, they might be amenable to it, right? Now let's look at the article by C. Brewer of the Cron Line about the Centralia Schools Race to Meet fundraising, where they've got to raise $19,000 to attend CISPUS in April. They teamed up to raise $45,000, but they're having trouble at $19,000 between Washington and Oakview elementary schools. That's harder. Supposing that we contacted these people and we found out that we could really help them. They found out we could really help them raise $10,000 a school using our methodology. Wouldn't that be terrific? What's the best way to do it? One thing we could do is send a letter to C. Brewer, an email to C. Brewer, and ask him to forward it. Let's take a look at how simple this letter can be. The first thing that you'll notice is that I have sent it to C. Brewer at Cronline, and that I have a subject of follow up to your article with the name of the article. And that comes from the headline of the article. This is the website page where the article appears. So he can click on it and go directly to that article if he doesn't remember it. Dear Christopher Brewer, which is his name, I'm writing to suggest a solution that has the potential to raise $20,000 or more for Oakview and Washington due to elementary schools mentioned in your article. Okay, that's relevant to what I wrote. I have a problem and you're suggesting a solution to the problem. I'm interested. The solution is described on this web page. Bang. He can go look at the web page. I don't have to say anything more. I don't have to sell it. The web page sells it. More information about the book that can be used to raise the money is available on this website. Bang. Nothing else has to be said. Would you please forward this email to the appropriate people in those schools and or the district? And there should be a question mark there. Also, should you want to interview me, I will make myself available. And perhaps this should say Pacific Time, GMT -8. That's it. Now the difference is if you were writing the letter, you might say, I work with a man named Alan Jordan. And I would like to suggest a solution that can help. And everything else would be the same except that also should you want to interview Mr. Jordan, I will ask him to make himself available. That's it. That's the whole letter. That's all you have to do. Let's send it. Let's do a quick recap. Use Bing News or Google News to find writers who might be interested in writing an article. This is very valuable because writers, if they write an article, will have many people who will respond. And also people in school districts and libraries who might want to raise funds. To do this, search for phrases. These are some of the phrases that you could search for. 3 to 4 word phrases are important. Then when you find the articles about the phrases, you have to find something relevant in the article. And you have to talk about it like we did in the example. And you have to ask the reporter to forward the email to the appropriate people. That's very important because if he forwards the email to the appropriate people, it has a lot of credibility. But it also tells the reporter that you're not really writing to him. You're using him as a conduit. And since you're not asking him to do an article about you, just forward an email, he's more likely to do an article, or she's more likely to do an article than if you ask them to do it. Then you have to follow up to see what happened. Use Skype to make a phone call or two, and send an email to see what happened. When you send your email, there is a trick, and that trick is to select an option that lets you know when somebody has, in effect, answered a letter. I'm not sure what type of email you have, but most emails have the ability to use an option. And the options that you select, one of them is request a read receipt for the message. If you select that and you send it out, then what happens is that when somebody opens the email, you get a message back that says that they've read it.